Hello, everybody. Today I'll be talking about this article in Foreign Policy magazine. Foreign Policy is a very well renowned magazine that publishes reports on global events. So, what it says is that globalization will look very different after the coronavirus pandemic. It also says that new barriers are going up at breathtaking speed. The pandemic will accelerate not the demise of globalization but its transformation. So, what I personally think is that we are entering an era of regionalism. Okay, so what I mean by that is no longer will goods be produced in less income countries and be consumed in the higher income countries, like what earlier used to happen. Like if you see most of the uh, apparels like t-shirts and pants, most of them are made in Bangladesh. Okay, and then they use child labor over there. Okay, and then they are shipped to the western countries. But what I think is that uh, in today's world, uh, like multiple pockets of regional influences will start forming, and each country will dominate that particular pocket. So I'll just go through briefly through some of the main points in the article. The contours of a different, more limited version of globalization are barely perceptible but visible nonetheless. So definitely people are not able to see that globalization will ride through this crisis because it has suffered some very major setbacks. Okay, so as you can see, the countries which touted the idea of open borders and free trade, the so-called free trade. My personal opinion is that trade is never free; it is always with strings attached. But all of these things were, the countries that were poster childs of these things, like Canada, like Germany, okay, like Australia, like US, to be honest, because US is very intended on the so-called in double quotes free trade. So all of them have just closed their borders, and now they are saying that we are going to just concentrate on our own countries. So the Trump's America First policy is now getting propagated to Canada, to Europe, to Germany, to Australia, to China, to India, to Russia, to Japan, everywhere. So, people were hoping that in a crisis like this, the world would just come together and fight it with solidarity. But the exact opposite has happened. I mean, even in countries like the European Union, the Schengen area countries have just closed out their borders and stopped interacting with each other. So, one more thing that this article talks about is even the most globally oriented politicians avoid touting the benefits of open borders, trade, and international engagement. So, this is what I was just talking about, that people are just not buying this idea of open borders and free trade, or making sure that globalization is beneficial for everybody. So just look at America. Okay, so many jobs are outsourced from globalization from America, due to globalization from America, that you know uh, that was one of the reasons why Trump got elected. Okay, because to be honest, normal person on the ground really does not care whether it is profitable for the company to manufacture something halfway around the world. All he cares about is whether he is able to put food on the table two times a day for his family. Okay, that's all that matters to him. So he is going to not just concern himself with the entire world. If Trump is the only politician or the so called politician that talks about the problems of the common people in the middle part of America, then definitely people are going to support him. Okay. I'm not a big fan of Trump, but all I can say is that I do understand where the people who support him come from. Okay. So it's not that these people are racist. Okay. Some of them are, but not everybody of them. All I can say is that these people have been sidelined by the system for the past 30 plus years by all the parties, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, and that's why they just want to believe in the person that at least talks about their problems. Trump is a sort of person who never offers any solutions to the problems. He just talks about those problems and he encashes on those problems. Okay, but at least he talks about them. People, because other politicians don't even talk about them, and that's why people, the common people who detest the elites are completely behind Trump. And to be honest, I don't blame them for that. Okay, because they have been sidelined by the system for long, long ago. And when you are not a part of the development of America or the world for so long, you really feel that you are an outcast. And when a person like Trump comes along, you can definitely find, your messiah in that person. Exact same thing also happened in Germany. Exact same thing in the 1930s. Exact same thing will also is supposed to happen in Italy and Spain after this crisis gets over, because people are going to find a person who is going to at least channelize their emotions in the proper fashion. To the idealists among us, a worldwide pandemic would seem precisely the kind of common threat that could usher in a new era of international cooperation. As I said, the world is not ideal. Okay, everybody wants to be an idealist, and we want the world to behave as per our own perceptions. But the fact of the matter is that all the countries just have to take care of themselves before they engage in the so-called free trade agreements. Okay, now just look at the NAFTA agreement. Okay, there's a agreement called North American Free Trade Agreement. It is exactly called that, free trade agreement. And what that means is that people can move freely and work freely between three North American countries, which is Canada, America, and Mexico. But right now, that is just completely silent. That just is completely overridden at this point, right? So, what do any of these free trade agreements even mean then? To be honest, nothing. Okay, they are just void agreements, and they are just PR stunts, public relations stunts for most of the countries to just market their agenda to the rest of the world. Okay, so driven by a combination of changes in popular sentiment, government policy, and corporate practices, globalization will change. Okay, definitely, I think globalization is going to change. We will start an era of regional cooperation. So suppose like in North American continent, there will be America who will dominate the entire continent, and they will trade with Canada and Mexico. Okay, but they will not go beyond the purview of North American continent. Then we have South America, where Brazil is the giant over there, that is going to dominate and trade with every other country in South America, be it Chile, Ecuador, or Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. All of them are just going to trade with Brazil, and Brazil is going to dominate that entire region. In Europe, definitely Germany is the leader of Europe, and to be honest, Italy and Spain, if they leave the European Union, to be honest, that is just going to be the end of the Euro project. Okay, and if they are going to leave the European Union, but and even after that, if they even leave the Eurozone, I mean, like the currency that they have in place in Italy and Spain, that is definitely going to usher in the disintegration of Europe. Okay, because that is like the sure shot sign that European project is a complete failure. So in Africa, it will be Nigeria, which will dominate the entire continent. Now look at Asia. Okay, Asia is the only continent that has multiple polarities in its realm. Okay, so you have China. Definitely, China is largest economy in the world right now in terms of purchasing power parity. Then you have India, which is again poising for its place in the world market. Okay, then you have Russia, which is an energy superpower. Russia is the largest exporter of natural gas and oil or energy to the European Union. Okay, so then you have Japan. Japan is aging, that is fine, but even then, Japan is still pretty powerful. Okay, I mean, if you look at most of the European countries like UK and France, Japan is still powerful than them. Okay. Now look at say Indonesia. Indonesia is also a very big country of 250 million people, and they are poised to become the fourth largest economy by 2050. So there are multiple polarities in the Asian context. Okay, so definitely the future is going to be Asian, because when you have so many different powers in that area, it is just going to accelerate the rise of Asia by in just 10 years or 20 years. So that is really something that we are seeing right now, and the world is also transforming at a rapid pace. I personally think there is not going to be just a unipolar world after this, like a single superpower, which is America at this point, which will dominate the world politics. Because as you can see, in the last 4 years of Trump, he has taken America out of almost every major world organization. Okay, he has criticized NATO members for not paying their fair share. He has taken the US out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He has stopped funding for WHO. What else do you need? He's screaming out loud that they just don't want to be the leader of the world anymore. Okay, so to be honest, that void is just going to be filled by China for the near term, and India by the in the long term. Okay, because even China is facing a demographic crisis. Even in China, people have started started decrease. Even China has started declining population. So in the near term, China will dominate it, but in the long term, India will take up the place of China, say by within a generation. So I think globalization had its long run. Okay, I think in 1991 the Berlin Wall fell, and many countries in the world started liberalization and globalization as their agenda. In India, there was Narasimha Rao, who started the liberalization process in India. So since 1991 to now 2020, so almost 30 years of globalization, um, is really something that everybody has benefited out of it. I'm not saying that it has only been the benefit of the richer countries or the Western countries, but all I can say is that right now the playing field has been leveled. Okay, everybody knows everything. So even if you are uh, a small person or a small boy, 10-year-old boy in the slum of Dharavi in Mumbai, or you are a high class billionaire in Manhattan in New York, both of them know what exactly the world looks like today. So both of them do have the kind of resources with which they can negotiate to the world and make sure that they are not getting exploited in this madness. So I personally think this is a good point, and the world should definitely not be dominated by just one single power, and it should work on regional cooperation. And I'm looking forward to a world like this, where America will not just bully its way to the entire world. Because just look at what the bullies of America have done to the entire world. Okay, look at Vietnam, look at Afghanistan, look at Iraq, look at Yemen, look at Libya. Okay, all these countries are just a complete mess. And why did America go there? To liberate these people, the so called liberation of these people with the so called democracy. America does not even itself have democracy. Forget about exporting democracy to the rest of the world. Look at Venezuela. Okay, there's a famous saying, by one of the authors, that when America knew that Venezuela had the world's one of the world's largest oil reserves, they wanted to bring democracy to that country. So if you get the sarcasm in this statement, America doesn't really care about exporting democracy or like having democracy. To be honest, America itself does not have a democracy. Forget about exporting democracy to the rest of the world. So America has supported dictators for a long, long time. Look at Saudi Arabia, and look at the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. They don't care about any of these stuffs. Okay, they don't care about human rights. As long as American interests are getting satisfied, they will just go anywhere. They will go to the moon to extract oil from the moon. So I think this is the world is going in a good direction. where globalization is coming to a halt. And the fun part about this is that the two major countries that were the front runners of globalization, the US and the UK. Okay, so Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, these two people were the proponents of globalization. They wanted the entire world to open up their borders in 1989. And look at these two countries right now. Trump is saying America first almost every day. And look at Britain. Britain has, cut itself out of European Union. Brexit thing is just an absolute mess. So both these two countries that were the poster childs of globalization are have retreated from their stand, and now they are nowhere to be seen. Okay, so this is exactly what hypocrisy looks like. Okay, so yeah, this is my analysis for this article, and please like and comment if you agree or disagree with me. I'm open to both kind of scenarios. Also, do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you can never miss an update from my side. Thank you from this part of the world.